Hi there. It's November the 30th, and we are continuing our progress through the book of Daniel, and we are in Daniel chapter 7. We recall that Daniel is connected with the Jewish deportee, Daniel, who becomes a great leader in the court of King Nebuchadnezzar, and then later on in the court of Darius and Cyrus. But we also find here that Daniel is a prophet. He's an apocalyptic prophet. Apocalyptic means taking the lid off in Greek, and he's one who has revelations. And here, particularly in chapter 7, is a great revelation that he shares of some of the things that he's seen. It's written again in Aramaic. This part of the book is in Aramaic. We'll change back to Hebrew in some of the next chapters, but here we're still in the lingua franca of the Babylonian and Persian empires that are to come. And so the language of Daniel 7 is actually quite difficult to interpret in many ways. So what we're looking at here is a vision that Daniel has, and he says he's troubled by the vision. It's a vision of the night, it's a night vision, and he is troubled by this vision because he sees great monsters, great beasts coming up. But he later on explains what these things actually mean, and the interpretation is given to him later on. And so he sees basically four great creatures coming up, and they're coming up out of the sea, representing chaos and representing the original creation. All sorts of things could be understood by that. Then also later they're coming up out of the earth. So basically we didn't get caught on that, but there's the rising of four beasts. There's a lion with eagle's wings, there's a bear, there's a panther, a winged panther, and also there's a beast with iron teeth, whose nature isn't actually defined. So these are explained as being four kingdoms or four empires that rise up. And scholars have traditionally linked these four to the four empires, which actually are referred to in the layers of the image that Nebuchadnezzar sees back in Daniel 2. And so there's the Babylonian, which is identified with the lion with the wings, because this is something which was a symbol in Babylonian art. The bear is connected with the Median Empire that Darius would have represented, and the Medes were seen as very fierce and very voracious, and so a bear represents them. And then the panther, the winged panther, with the four heads or the four faces, represents the Persian Empire. The Persians were seen as going everywhere, taking their authority everywhere. And then lastly, the beast with the iron teeth is connected with Alexander the Great, the Greek Empire, who went just marauding across from Greece across the Near and Middle East, and changing everything into his way. So these are connected with the four empires that are following. And then also out of these four, out of this last empire, out of this last creature, comes horns, 10 horns. Now Alexander the Great handed his empire on to a number of different rulers, particularly in the Ptolemaic and the Seleucid dynasties of kings, who he handed on to after him. And so this is seen as the succession of kings that comes after Alexander the Great. But one little horn rises up, and this horn speaks arrogantly, and it has eyes, and this horn undoubtedly points to the figure of Antiochus Epiphanes, who was the great persecutor of the Jewish people, who tried to, and Daniel talks about this, he changed times and seasons. He tried to abolish the law, abolish the feasts. And so this is Antiochus Epiphanes who's represented. But as we link all these beasts and these interpretations, these kingdoms together, Daniel is very clear that these kingdoms will come to an end, their power will be taken away, but there is a kingdom coming which it belongs to what he calls the Ancient of Days. And he sees the Ancient of Days, who is the God of Israel, the God, the maker of heaven and earth, the Ancient of Days taking his seat, and also he sees one like the Son of Man. Now it's significant here, this is written in Aramaic, and so the term that is used here is Bar Enosh. Hebrew is Ben Adam, but here the Aramaic has Bar Enosh, And what's significant about that is that Jesus would have spoken Aramaic himself, and so he would have referred to himself in his own language when he was speaking to people. When he took that term Son of Man, this is the term he would have taken to himself, Bar Enosh. And so people would immediately have connected him and his messiahship that he was claiming with this prophecy in Daniel chapter 7. And we see this kingdom, this is the kingdom that is going to end all kingdoms. This is the kingdom that will continue on forever, that there'll be no end of. It will grow. It's pointing back again to Isaiah's prophecy of the establishment of the throne of David, of the increase of his government not being any end, of a messianic ruler who will come. And of course for us that points to the person of Jesus. It's wonderful to see that the scriptures already are pointing forward to the one who is to come, the Bar Enosh, the Son of Man, who will come and be revealed in Jesus Messiah, who also takes on himself the form of the suffering servant, the one who will carry the sins and sicknesses of the world. And in Jesus Messiah we see the one that Daniel is looking forward to here, the Son of the Ancient of Days, who at the end of all these great kingdoms and empires that will pass away, himself will establish a kingdom which will never end, and of which we are his ambassadors. Have a very good November 30th.